Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be sharing with you guys how I made this stylish dress with a puffy sleeve. It's a very simple and easy tutorial. So if it's something you're interested in, please keep on watching and let's get started with the video. So I'm going to be using this beautiful Ankara fabric to make this dress, and I'm using about 1.5 yards to make it. You can use about 2 yards if you want it very long. And as you can see, my fabric is on fold, and to fold the fabric all you need to do is divide your hip circumference by 4 and add your allowance to it so you don't waste fabric. So just divide your hip circumference, whatever it gives you, you mark it on the material and add 1.5 inches of allowance to it. So that's how I folded mine. So as you can see, I already marked my horizontal measurement, and the first line I marked is about 1 inch, and which will be my shoulder line. So from that shoulder line, I marked my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. So from the shoulder line as well, I marked my shoulder to my waist, which is 16 inches. So now from my waistline, I'm going to be marking my waist to my hip. So my waist to hip length is 9 inches. So you can use between 8 to 9 inches, and you can as well measure it on your body. So now I'll come back to my shoulder line and measure the full length of the dress. So depending on where you want your dress length to be, so you mark from the shoulder line to get the full length. So for me, I'll be using 45 inches, sorry, for my full length. I'll be using 45 inches, but I added extra 2-inch allowance for it, for folding it inside. So for the hem of the dress, I added 2 inches allowance. So right now on my shoulder line, that shoulder line I marked, I'll be dividing my shoulder by 2. So my shoulder is 16. 16 divided by 2 will give me 8. I'll go ahead and mark that there. Then I'll come down by 1 inch from that 8 inches I marked for my shoulder slope. So still on that shoulder line, I'll be marking my neck width, and the neck width I'll be using is 3 inches. So right now I'm going to connect that 3 inches to the 1 inch I came down for my shoulder slope. So right now I'll be marking my armhole measurement, and to get your armhole, all you need to do is divide your bust circumference by 6 and add 1.5 inches. So for me, mine is approximately 8 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark it there like so. So right now I'm going to use my ruler to connect the 1 inch I came down by for my shoulder slope all the way to the 8 inches I marked. Then I'll extend this part like so. So right now at this armhole line, I'm going to be dividing this line by 2. So that 8 inches, if I divide it by 2, it will give me 4. So I'll go ahead and mark that 4 inches like so. So at the point that I mark that 4 inches, I'll just come in by about half of an inch. So at this point, I'll use my ruler to connect from my shoulder to the half inch I came in by like so. Then I'll take my pattern master and use it to connect to my armhole like so. So you can see the way I placed my pattern master. So I'm using the curved part to make my armhole curve. So now I'm going to be marking the V-neck of this dress, and what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to place my tape rule at the neck width, and I'll go ahead and mark 7.5 inches. So depending on how low you want your V to be, you can extend it down by 1 inch to make it 8.5 inches or even 8 inches. So right now I'll just go ahead and use my ruler to connect like so. So right now I'm going to be taking my body measurement. So I'll come to my armhole and divide my bust circumference by 4. So my bust circumference divided by 4 is 9.5 inches, and I'll go ahead and mark it there. Then I'll go ahead and add 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. You can add between 1 inch or 1.5 inches for your allowance. So next I'll come to my waist and divide my waist circumference by 4. So my waist divided by 4 is 8 inches. So right now I'm going to be adding 1 inch for my dart. So this dress is going to be having a dart because it's a fitted dress. So I'm going to add that 1 inch. Then I'll add 1.5 inches, sorry, for my sewing allowance. So the next measurement I'll be taking is my hip measurement. So my hip circumference divided by 4 is about 10.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark it here, and I'll add the 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. So now for the hemline, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to mark whatever it is I have for my actual hip circumference divided by 4. So my actual hip circumference divided by 4 is 10.5 inches, and I'll go ahead and mark it. So now I'm going to be removing 1.5 inches from this 10.5 inches that I marked. So I'll remove that 1.5 inches here like so. So right now I'm going to connect this point to my hip measurement like so. So I'll connect from here to that point. So right now I'm going to be using my pattern master to connect from my waist to my hip like so. So right now I'm going to connect from my bust to my waist. So right now I'm going to be taking my dart measurement, and what I'll do is I'll divide my bust span by 2. So my bust span, that's also my nipple to nipple measurement. I'm going to be dividing it by 2. So my bust span is 8. 8 divided by 2 will give me 4. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that 4 on my bust points, my waist and my hip. So now I'm going to use my ruler to connect the 3 points together. So right now from this bust point I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch because I don't want my darts to start directly on my bust point line. So on my waist I'm going to be dividing this line into 2. So I'm going to be marking half an inch on both sides. Remember that 1 inch extra we left for our dart, I'm going to be marking it here. So I'll just mark half an inch on both sides like so. So on my hip line I'm just going to come up by 1 inch. So now I'll just use my ruler to connect this point like so. So right now I'm going to be taking half an inch on my shoulder for my joining allowance. So make sure you add the allowance on your shoulder so that when you are joining it doesn't come out short. So right now I'll just use my ruler to connect. So that is that for the front pattern, and right now I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So now I'm going to be using the front pattern to cut out the back, and I also placed my fabric on fold as you can see. So right now I make sure I added my allowance. This fabric was not really enough, that's why I used about 1 inch allowance for my zipper. So I advise you use about 1.5 inches for your zipper allowance. So before you cut, make sure you leave your allowance before cutting the back out. So right now we're going to be cutting out the neck, and as you can see I already cut out my shoulder. So right now I'm going to show you how to cut the neck. So I'm going to come down by 2 inches. The neck depth for the back is actually 1.5 inches, but because we already marked half an inch on the shoulder, so it's going to make it 2 inches right now. So I'll just go ahead and mark 2 inches downwards, and I'll flip the front over like so I can mark 2 inches at this point as well. So I'll go ahead and use my ruler to connect. So now I'm going to use my free hand to just make a slight curve like so. So the armhole for the back is always different from the one at the front, so I'm just going to go ahead and come out a little bit like so it's not going to be as deep as the one at the front. So you can see what I'm doing. So we're done with the back pattern, and I'm going to go ahead and cut it out, inclusive of my zipper allowance. So I'm going to be adding a lining to this dress, and as you can see my lining is on fold as well. So I advise you to use this part as the hem of your lining so that the other parts does not fray when after wearing the dress. So I'm going to be placing my main fabric on the lining like so. So this lining is not going to be a full lining, and I'm going to be removing 12 inches from the actual dress. So this is where my lining will stop. So I'm removing 12 inches, and this is where I'll cut my lining from. So right now I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So the first lining I cut is the back lining, and now I'm going to be cutting the front lining the same way I did at the back. So before we join our fabric together, I'm going to be cutting the V-shaped part of this dress, that V shape that you can see. But for me, I'm going to be using a black fabric. I'm going to be using this black satin fabric or a doll face. And right now, I'm just going to go ahead and fold it into two like so. So you can see the way I folded it. So right now I'm going to bring in the front pattern so that I can get the V-shaped part of the dress. I'm going to place it on top of my black satin fabric like so. So you can see the way I placed it. So I'm going to place it on top like so, and I'll use my pin to hold it down. So right now I'm going to use my chalk to trace out that V shape on top of the satin fabric. So right now I'm going to come to the shoulder and measure whatever I want the length at the shoulder to be. So I'll be using 2.5 inches inclusive of my sewing allowance. So the actual length I want is 2 inches, but the extra half an inch is for my sewing allowance. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and trace this line out like so. So you can see what the shoulder looks like now. So I'm going to place the main bodies aside, and I'll go ahead and measure the rest of the V shape I want. So what I'm going to do right now is the same 2.5 I measured at the shoulder. I'll go ahead and measure it all the way here like so. So I'm going to go ahead and measure it all the way down. So I'll just go ahead and use my ruler to connect. So once I get to this part, that place the V stops, I'm going to go ahead and use 2.5 inches as well. So I'll just go ahead and make a slight curve. I'm not going to be making it all the way straight. So I'm just going to make a slight curve like so, so you can see how it looks like. So I'll come to the hem of my front bodies and trace it out, but I'm not going to be tracing exactly where it stops. I'm going to be adding extra half an inch just in case. You know, sometimes this fabric used to shift, so I'm just going to add extra half an inch just in case. So once I've added the half an inch, I'll just go ahead and place my bodies aside. So my camera stopped recording at this point, but what I did was I used the same 2.5 I used at the V-neck side. I just used it to trace this part all the way down. So you just watch what I'm going to do. So I'll just show you what I did. So I just traced out 2.5 all the way to the place I marked that extra half an inch at the hem. So that's all you need to do. So right now I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So this is what I have after cutting, and to join it on the dress I'm going to be showing you what to do. So we're going to be ironing it first. So to make it easier while joining on the main fabric, because we're going to be joining directly on the front, I'll advise you iron it down like so. So use the half an inch or quarter of an inch allowance we left while we are cutting out. So just take your time to iron the sides like so. It's going to be much easier. Another easier way is to add your hemming gum to it. So you can see that I already cut out the hemming gum for this, and I'll just go ahead and place it inside the place I already ironed, and I'll use it to fold it in and iron it down. So it's going to be much easier this way. So I'm going to be doing the same thing at this side as well. So you don't have to add hemming gum all the way down. The major side is that V-shaped side. So you just go ahead and press the remaining down like this to give it a neat finishing. So this is what I have after ironing it. You can see how neat it is. So now I'm going to be joining it on my fabric. So it's supposed to be like this while joining. You can see the way it is. So it's supposed to be like this. So right now I'm going to be pinning it down like so, and I'm going to be placing my lining on it. So it's going to be in the middle of the main fabric and the lining. So I'll place my lining on top now, and you see how it's going to be. So now I'm going to place my lining on top like so, and I'll go ahead and pin it down. So just take your time while doing it. Just make sure the V shape of the three of them matches with each other. So I'll just take my time to pin it down carefully so it will be easy for me when I'm sewing. So now I'll take it to my sewing machine and use about quarter of an inch to join it. So after joining in, this is what I have. So right now, I'll just go ahead and make a notch at this V part of the dress, so it will be easy for me when I'm turning it over to the other side. So after turning it over, I'm just going to go ahead and iron it down properly. So right now we're going to be joining this black fabric to the main bodice, but before doing that, we're going to be taking in our dart. So we're going to be taking our dart. So what I'll do right now is that I'm just going to go ahead and fold this fabric into two. So just make sure it's folded properly. So right now I'll come to my shoulder and I'll come down by half of an inch. So that half an inch is the allowance for joining the shoulder together. So I'll come down by half of an inch and mark my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. So the same way we did it when we are drafting the pattern is how we're going to do it now. So right now I'm going to go ahead and measure my nipple to nipple measurement, which is also my bust span, and it is 4 inches. So I'll go ahead and measure it all the way like so. So I'll measure my shoulder to my waist as well, just like I did when I was drafting. I'll measure my shoulder to waist, which is 16 inches. So I'll measure my bust span as well when I'm on that's my waist measurement, which is 4 inches. So from that point, I'll mark my waist to my hip, which is 9 inches. So I'll mark it here as well and measure my bust span, which is 4 inches. So I'll go ahead and use my ruler to connect the 3 points together. So I'll go to my bust point and come down by 1 inch, just like I did when we were drafting the pattern. Then on the waist, I'm going to go in by half of an inch and I'll come out by half of an inch as well. Then I'll go ahead and connect that half an inch to the 1 inch I came down by on my bust point. Then on my hip, I'll come up by 1 inch as well, and I'll use my ruler to connect it to the half an inch I measured on my waistline. So I'll be doing the same thing at the other side as well, and I'll take it to my sewing machine to join it. So after joining it, this is what I have. So now we'll be joining this black fabric to the main dress, and just watch how I'm going to do it, just to make sure that everything aligns. I'll go ahead and mark whatever it is I have here from my darts. I'll measure it. I'll just make sure it is equal. So I'll go ahead and pin the black fabric down to the main bodies. So I'll be doing the same thing at my hip as well, just to make sure that everything aligns. I'll measure whatever I have here, which is 2 inches. I'll make sure I also have 2 inches at that side as well. Then I'll go ahead and pin it down. I'll be doing the exact same thing at the hem of the dress as well. So I'll make sure that everything aligns, and I'll use my pin to hold it down. So you can see how I'm taking the measurements. I'm just making sure that whatever I have here is the same thing I have at the other side, so that everything aligns. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin it down as well. So after pinning it down, I'll take it to my sewing machine and join it. So I'm just going to stitch directly on top of the main fabric. And I'm done doing that, and you can see how neat it looks. I also went ahead to iron it down, so you can see how neat it looks. And you can see the stitch, you can see it's very close, so you can see what it looks like. So that is that for the front bodice. So right now we'll go straight to the back bodice. So right now I'll be joining my lining to the back bodice. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch the neck. I'm going to use about 1/4 of an inch to stitch the neck with the lining like so. So I'm done stitching. I'll go ahead and make a notch around it. So after notching, I'll just take it to my machine and top stitch. So once I'm done top stitching, I'll just go ahead and flip the lining like so. So just watch what I'm doing. I'm going to flip it, and I will go ahead and close up the zipper part. So I'll sew it all the way down. So I'm done doing that, and I went ahead to iron it. I did the same thing for the second piece as well. So right now I'll be joining both pieces together with my zipper allowance. So right now I'm done joining, and I'm going to be taking my dart. I'll be doing the exact thing I did when I was taking the dart for the front. So all you need to do is come down by about half of an inch first and mark your shoulder to your bust point, your waist and your hip. You're going to be taking your nipple to nipple measurement as well, but you're going to be marking from your zipper allowance. So from that joining at your zipper allowance, that's where you're going to be marking from. So I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and join the darts. So I'm done joining the dart and this is what I have. So right now I'm going to be adding my zipper to it, and what I will do right now is that I'm just going to go ahead and open this part up. So I'll bring in my zip to know where to stop. So I'll just place my zip on top like so and mark where I want my zip to stop. So that's where my opening will stop. So right now I've gone ahead to join my zip to the dress. So if you don't know how to add your zip to your dress, I have a tutorial on that and then you can check it out. So right now I'm going to be joining the shoulder of the front and back piece together. I'll use the 1/2 inch allowance that I left. I'm going to use it to join it. So I'm done joining it and this is what I have. You can see what it looks like. So before joining the bodies together, I'm going to be adding my sleeve to it, and I'm going to be using this same satin fabric I used. I'm going to be using it for it. So I'm going to be using about 1.5 yards for it. So depending on how full you want your sleeve to be. So this is about 1.5 yards, and I'm just going to go ahead and fold it into two like so. So you can see right here that my fabric is on fold. You can see what it looks like. So I'm going to be measuring how wide the sleeve is. So I'll just place my tape here, and I actually used the whole measurement I have on this material for how full I want my sleeve to be. Then for the length, depending on how long you want the sleeve to be, I marked about 25 inches here, but I ended up using about 20 inches for it. So depending on how long you want your sleeve to be, you can, if you want it to be at your elbow, you can use between 16 to 17 inches. So it's all dependent on you. So after measuring it, I just went ahead to connect. So at the top of my sleeve, I'm just going to go ahead and make a curve like so. So just follow what I'm doing. So I'm just going to go ahead and make that sleeve curve that we normally make, just for joining it together to make a pleat at the top of the sleeve. So right now, just go ahead and cut it out. So after cutting, I'm just going to go ahead and fold in the hem of the sleeve so that it can accommodate my elastic. So I'll just go ahead and fold it in and join it. And this is what I have after joining. So right now I'll be adding my elastic to it. So if you don't know the length of the elastic to add, all you need to do is measure your arm circumference and add about extra 2 inches to the elastic. So I'm done inserting it, and this is what I have. So now I'm going to be joining it to my fabric, and I'll just open up the shoulder like so, and I'll go ahead and fold the sleeve into two like so, just for me to get the midpoint, and I'll make a notch at the midpoint. So right now I'm going to be joining the sleeve to the main bodies, and right now I'll just go ahead and place the armholes on top of each other like so. I'll make sure that the right sides are matching with each other, so don't make that mistake. Make sure the right sides are matching with each other. So I'll go ahead and use my pin to hold it down like so. So I'll come to the other side as well, and then I'll make sure the armhole is matching with each other. So I'll use my pin to hold it down as well. So when pinning it down, once I get to the curved part of the armhole, I'll start pleating. So I'll just go ahead and pleat it carefully, and then I'll use my pin to hold it down. So just watch what I'm doing. So remember that part that I notched when I wanted to start joining the sleeve together. So I'll just go ahead and place it on the mid part of my armhole, and I'll pleat it. So I'll make sure I have enough pleat around that part because I want it to be a little puffy at the shoulder part. So I'll just pleat it, and I'll use my pin to hold it down. So whatever is left, I'll just go ahead and pleat the remaining. So once I'm done pleating, I'll just take it to my sewing machine and use half of an inch to join it together. So this is what I have after joining it. You can see what it looks like. So right now I'll be joining the main bodies together. So I'll go ahead and use my pin to hold it down, just making sure the armhole of the front and back aligns with each other. So I'm done pinning now. Right now I'll be joining it together. So at this sleeve part, I'm just going to go ahead and pin it down as well, and I will use half of an inch to join it all the way. Then when I get to my main bodies, I'll use my actual measurements to join it together. So I'll be doing it on both sides. So I'm done joining it, and this is what it looks like after joining. You can see the sleeve as well, and I went ahead to use hemming gun to close the hem of the dress. I didn't want to stitch it, so I used hemming gun to close it. So now for the final part of this dress, to give the sleeve extra puffy effect, I'm going to be showing you guys what to do. So right now you're going to go ahead and fold the sleeve, just pinch it a little bit together, and you use your needle and threads to tack it. So you're going to be doing that a few times depending on how full you want the sleeve to be. So it's just to give it a fuller effect. So you're just going to be doing that a couple of times, and this is optional. If you don't want that, you can leave it as it is. So I'm done doing that, and you can see the effect it gave the sleeve now. It gave it some extra puffiness, and that is that for this tutorial. I also went ahead to use my hemming gum to close the slit, so I just folded it inside and I used hemming gum to iron it down. And we've come to the end of today's tutorial. Please, if you enjoyed this video and you've not yet subscribed to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe. And if you're a returning subscriber, please encourage me by liking and sharing the video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.